My name is William Holloman. Willie. I'm 102 years old. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1923, and I wasn't allowed to drink from the same water fountain as a white man until I was 41 years old. But in 1944, the United States government handed me a P-51 Mustang, the finest fighter plane in the world, and asked me to protect their white bomber crews over Nazi Germany. They said black men couldn't fly planes. They said we didn't have the intelligence for it. They said we didn't have the temperament, the discipline, the capability to operate aircraft under combat conditions. That was the official position of the United States military, written down, documented, policy. Then they trained us anyway, because they were losing the war and they needed pilots, and even a black pilot was better than an empty cockpit. We flew nearly 1,500 missions. We protected every bomber assigned to us. And when we came home, decorated, proven, victorious, they still wouldn't let us eat in the same restaurant as the men we'd saved. I'm 102 years old. I've been angry for 80 of them. And I'm going to tell you why.
At the beginning, I want to express how happy I am to have you with us. But before you get into the tricky stuff, can you tell us how you became a pilot?
I didn't like people telling me what I couldn't do. Growing up in Atlanta in the 1930s, there were a lot of things a black boy couldn't do. Couldn't go to certain schools. Couldn't sit in certain seats. Couldn't walk on certain sidewalks. The whole world was divided into white and colored, and the colored side was always smaller, always worse, always less. But I looked up at the sky, and the sky wasn't segregated. Nobody had put a sign up there saying, "Whites only." The sky was the one place in America that didn't have a color line, and I wanted to be in it. When the Army Air Corps opened training for black pilots at Tuskegee, Alabama in 1941, I signed up. They built us our own airfield, Tuskegee Army Airfield, separate, segregated, because even in wartime, even when the nation needed every man it could get, they couldn't bring themselves to train us alongside white pilots. When you signed in with the recruiter, if you didn't say white, you went to Tuskegee. That was it. Didn't matter your test scores. Didn't matter your education. Didn't matter that some of us had college degrees and the white recruits had barely finished high school. Black meant Tuskegee. The training was the same as any pilot program. Same aircraft, same curriculum, same standards. In fact, our washout rate was higher. Not because we were worse, but because they were looking for any excuse to prove their theory. Every mistake a white cadet made was a learning experience. Every mistake a black cadet made was evidence that we couldn't fly. We made it through anyway, earned our wings, got our assignments, and waited. They didn't know what to do with us at first. Black fighter pilots. The military had no plan for that. They didn't want us flying alongside white squadrons, didn't want us at white bases, didn't want us in white mess halls. So they sent us to Italy, Ramatelli Airfield, a captured enemy base on the Adriatic coast, far enough from the regular forces that nobody had to deal with us. And that's where they gave us the job that changed everything.
It sounds like it was a really tough time for you all, and I'm excited about this mission now.
The mission was bomber escort. That was our assignment. Protect the B-17s and B-24s on their bombing runs deep into Germany. Fly alongside them, fight off the German interceptors, and get those bombers home. Our job in the 15th Air Force was to protect our bombers. We would protect them against enemy fighters. The thing was, get those bombers home. I don't care what else. Get the bombers home. We painted the tails of our P-51s red, bright red, so the bomber crews could look out and see us without having to call on the radio. They'd spot that red tail and know, the 332nd is here, you're covered. The P-51 Mustang. What an airplane. It had range. We could fly 7-hour missions all the way to Berlin and back. It had speed. It had firepower. And it was beautiful. Sleek, fast, responsive. When you strapped into a P-51, you weren't just a pilot. You were a blade. The missions were long. 7 hours in a cockpit, scanning the sky for German fighters, watching the bombers below, checking your fuel, checking your instruments, checking your six. The Germans would come out of the sun, Focke-Wulfs, Messerschmitts, and you'd peel off to intercept, turn into them, close the distance, fire, break away, check for more. It was violent and precise and over in seconds, and then you'd reform and keep escorting. And 2 hours later, they'd come again. We had drop tanks, external fuel tanks made of paper and glue hung under the wings. Nearly doubled our range. When the fuel ran out, you dropped them and the plane got lighter, faster, more agile. American engineering at its finest. A fuel tank made of paper that gave us 900 extra miles. We flew nearly 1,500 missions, most of them in P-51s, and we earned a reputation. The bomber crews, white crews, men who might not have sat next to us in a diner back home, they requested us. They asked for the red tails by name because they knew if the 332nd was flying escort, the bombers were coming home. We were fighting two wars, the one over Germany and the one at home. In the air, I was a warrior. I had a P-51 Mustang and 8.50 caliber machine guns and the United States government's full authority to kill the enemy. I was trusted with a $250,000 aircraft and the lives of hundreds of bomber crewmen. On the ground, I couldn't use officers' club, couldn't eat in a white mess, couldn't sit in the front of the bus to the airfield. I was trusted to protect white lives at 25,000 feet, but I wasn't trusted to sit next to white people at sea level. You want to know what that does to a man? It splits you. It creates two people inside one body. The pilot, who is respected and needed and powerful, and the black man, who is none of those things the moment he takes off the flight suit. We had a saying, "We're fighting for the right to fight." Think about that. Other soldiers were fighting for freedom, for democracy, for their country. We were fighting for the right to be allowed to fight. The most basic thing, the right to serve, was something we had to earn, prove, and defend every single day. And even after we proved it, after 1,500 missions, after the Distinguished Unit Citation, after we'd protected every bomber and earned the respect of every crew we escorted, even then we came home to segregation. I landed in New York after the war, took off my uniform, walked into a restaurant. The waitress looked at me and said, "We don't serve colored." I just spent a year protecting her countrymen over Nazi Germany. I'd been shot at by Focke-Wulfs. I'd watched friends go down in flames. And this woman wouldn't bring me a cup of coffee.
You served a country that denied you your basic rights. That's not just injustice, that's betrayal. And yet, you still flew, you still fought. That takes a whole different kind of courage. So what did the Tuskegee Airmen prove?
We proved what never should have needed proving, that a black man can do anything a white man can do, that the color of your skin has nothing to do with your courage, your intelligence, your capability, or your worth. Prior to our existence, there was a feeling that African Americans weren't capable of flying aircraft under combat conditions. That was the official line, not a rumor, a policy. The United States military, the most powerful institution in the country, declared that an entire race of people was incapable. We didn't argue. We didn't protest. We flew. We flew 1,500 missions, and we flew them so well that the people who said we couldn't do it had to shut up. Not because they changed their minds. Most of them didn't. Because the evidence was too loud. You can't ignore a Distinguished Unit Citation. You can't ignore a perfect escort record. You can't ignore men who did the impossible and made it look routine. I think in some ways, segregation and racism made us a stronger group. We realized we were trying to prove something, that we could do the job, and we were committed to that. Every mission was a test. Every sortie was an exam. And every time we brought those bombers home, we passed. In 1948, 3 years after the war, President Truman signed Executive Order 9,981, desegregating the United States military. They'll tell you it was politics. They'll tell you it was strategy. I'll tell you what it really was. It was because of us. Because the Tuskegee Airmen proved, in combat, under fire, with their lives on the line, that segregation was not just immoral, it was stupid. It was a waste of talent that a nation at war could not afford. Someone, somewhere right now, is being told they can't. They're too young, too old, too poor, wrong color, wrong neighborhood, wrong accent, wrong background. Someone is drawing a line and telling another human being, you don't belong on this side. They're wrong. The same way the United States military was wrong in 1941. The same way every system that sorts human beings by the color of their skin or the circumstances of their birth is wrong. Not just morally wrong, practically wrong, strategically wrong. Because every time you tell someone they can't, you lose what they could have given you. The Air Force almost lost us, almost threw away 1,500 missions, a distinguished unit citation, and decades of aviation excellence because someone decided that black men couldn't fly. How many other missions didn't get flown because talented men were turned away? How many wars were fought with one hand tied behind our back because we were too proud and too stupid to use every man we had? Don't let anyone tell you what you can't do, and don't tell anyone else what they can't do, because you might be looking at a pilot. You might be looking at a surgeon. You might be looking at the person who saves your life one day, if you let them. I painted my tail red so the bombers could see me coming, so they'd know help is here. The red tails are here. You're going to make it home. I'm still here. 102. Red tail to the end. Proud of myself being there, and proud of all the fellows that I served with.